Let's have some country guitar today, shall we? Now, I'm not a country guitar specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a style that I really enjoy playing. And what I've done is put together a short country solo into which I've tried to cram a lot of my favourite country devices and licks. So we've got some melodic thirds and sixths. I'm mixing major and minor pentatonics. There's some steel bending. I'm trying to outline the chord changes a little bit as well. So if you want to play a bit of country guitar, this might not be a bad place to start. Let me begin by just playing this little solo for you, and then I'll break everything down. So there we are. Now, I know from some of the comments that I get that this kind of country stuff does tend to polarize people, and some people are really into it. Other people are very reluctant to go there at all. But I think it's important to realize that country can mean a lot of different things, and I certainly don't like some of the cliched country stuff or a lot of the more slick sounding modern country, but I do like a lot of the classic stuff, and I certainly like a lot of the more kind of alternative country styles as well. And I'm sure I've said this before, but I find that the kind of things I get from learning country guitar work their way into the other styles of music that I more normally play. So things like outlining chord changes, playing in an interesting and melodic way. I mean, that kind of stuff can apply to just about any style you like. So even if country isn't your bag, I hope you'll find that some of the concepts that I'm talking about today will translate into whatever styles of music you do like to play. So I'm going to break down what I just played in a bit of detail, and you can learn the whole thing note for note if you want. You can just learn one or two licks if you prefer. But above all, I'd like you to understand what's going on behind the music. So understand some of the concepts that I'm talking about. Then you'll be able to make some of these ideas your own and do your own thing with them. We're in the key of A, and this is a 12-bar solo over the 1, 4 and 5 chords. So A, D and E. And I'm trying to outline those chords a little bit as they go by. And I suppose many of the ideas that I'm playing here are kind of stock phrases, almost cliches. They're kind of my go-to ideas when I try and play in a country style. And having these kind of stock ideas is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to play cliches in this kind of style, because they do in a way capture the essence of the style, and it doesn't mean that you can't be creative with them. You can learn these fixed phrases but then play around with them, and it's more about how you string them together, and it's about your phrasing and your tone and your touch. So my opening phrase was this one. And this is thirds played on the 2nd and 3rd string. So starting here at the 14th fret, and it's this kind of sound. So along the length of the 3rd string, I'm playing notes from the key. So we're in the key of A major, but I've actually got a flat 7th in there, which theoretically speaking makes this the A Mixolydian mode. So we've got that along the length of the 3rd string. And then on the B string, I'm just harmonising that a 3rd above. So you're going to get shapes which are either a major 3rd or a minor 3rd. So you've got two shapes. This one where both notes are at the same fret, and this shape here where the notes are 1 fret apart. So we've got this kind of idea played on the 2nd and 3rd strings. Then what I'm doing is I'm also adding in a note on the 5th string as well. This note is actually doubling the note you're playing on the B string, an octave lower, and it just means you've got some bass notes in there as well. It helps with the groove, it helps with the rhythm. So I'm leading into this C sharp note on the A string, and then I'm playing the thirds on the 2nd and 3rd string. So a little bit of hybrid picking is going to work best when you're playing this. So I'm playing the notes on the 5th string with the pick, and then I'm playing the double stop on the higher strings with my middle finger and my ring finger, usually just giving that a bit of a snap as well, so you've got that chicken picking kind of sound. That's our first little shape. Then I'm sliding down sliding down again, and the third is changing to a minor third, and then sliding down once again. And I'm muting a little bit with the palm of my picking hand, or sometimes just not pressing all the way down with my fretting hand. So some of those lower notes are just clicks, and they're more there for the percussion and for the groove. You don't actually hear all of those notes all of the time, and particularly if you're playing this kind of thing in context with a band, you might not hear some of those notes, but they help with the overall groove. So that's the idea. Another thing that I find really helpful is with ideas like this, just have them relating to a chord shape, so you can easily find these ideas and use them in an actual musical situation. So with this shape here, I mean, I'm thinking of it as it's kind of in between the A form and the G form if you're thinking in caged terms. So you've got your A bar chord in the A form here, and then up here you've got your G form, and this lick is coming out of this triad shape, and then you've got this note down here. So good to relate it to either this chord shape or this chord shape. That's my opening phrase. Then I'm answering that phrase with this. So we're still on the one chord at this point, still on the A chord, and I've got some six. So another kind of country cliche really. You're coming out of this bar chord shape, so the E form this time, and living on the top string and on the third string you've got this sixth shape. That's the starting point, and then you're changing to this shape here where both notes are at the same fret, so at the 7th fret, and then just walking up one fret at a time, so 7, 8 and 9. Got a nice country sixth idea which fits that A chord perfectly. And then I'm following that with just some single notes based on the A minor pentatonic. So with country, part of the character of the sound is this mixing of major and minor. So over that A major chord, you can either play the sweeter major pentatonic kind of sounds, or you can go for that more bluesy minor pentatonic sound. And here I'm combining the two in a single phrase. It's starting off quite sweet, and then it's going a little bit bluesy. So the notes I'm playing there, we've got, and then sliding up on the third string. So going between two positions of the minor pentatonic here. So you might refer to this as pattern 2. And then sliding up into pattern 3. And just giving that C note a bit of a bluesy bend as well. So that's the minor third. Just pushing that slightly sharp. Next we're changing to the 4 chord, which is a D, and I'm really playing the same lick, but I've transposed it to fit over the D chord. So here's our D chord, and you can use these chords as your reference point to launch into that same lick. So exactly the same thing happening there. And then another pentatonic based answering phrase. That kind of idea. So major to minor once again. So it starts off with more of a major pentatonic sound. So minor to major third there actually. And then a 8-7-5 on the B string. Another little bluesy bend on a C note. And then coming down to the root. So we're back to the 1 chord at that point, I should say. So this lick played over the D, then back to the 1. And next we're going to the 5 chord, which is an E chord. And I'm choosing to play some country bends, these kind of steel style bending licks. Again, a real staple of this kind of genre. So the lick I'm playing is this. And I'm thinking of this lick as coming out of this C form of the E chord. So all of these licks I'm seeing as hiding in and around chord shapes. A really good example of the caged system at work here. So if you've got your E chord shape here, and around that chord shape I like to visualize scales and arpeggios as well. So you've got an E major arpeggio, your E major pentatonic, or your E major scale. So all of that stuff in that position, in that C form of the caged system. And this lick starts off with a major pentatonic kind of idea. Then I'm bending here, bending this F sharp up to a G sharp. And then I'm playing the B and the A on the top string whilst I'm holding the bend. So, and then releasing the bend. Really useful phrase. Lots of ways you can vary that. You don't have to play it exactly as I'm playing it, and all you need to do is just change the rhythm, change your articulation, and you've got some licks of your own. Anyway, back to my solo. This is all played over the 5 chord, and there are actually 2 bars on the 5 chord here. And what I did, the first bar I played that sort of sweet major pentatonic idea, so thinking out of this shape. And then over the second bar, what I did is I moved 3 frets higher and took it minus. So remember, with these pentatonic shapes, the relationship between major and minor is kind of the same shape, 3 frets away. So if you've got your E major pentatonic here, 3 frets higher, you've got your E minor pentatonic shape, and you've got can play some of those minor licks. So works really well. I mean, particularly I think on the 5 chord, going from the major then 3 frets higher into the minor sound. So that's what I did here. So for the minor lick there, it's that same kind of bending idea. This time I'm playing a D on top, and I'm bending this A note on the B string. So I'm playing the top note, and it's kind of a pre-bend on the B string, bringing that bend down, and then you've got the minor third, which is this G. I'm just bending it sharp up towards the major third. So put that together, you've got a really effective 5 chord phrase. And for the final phrase, we're back to the 1 chord, back to the A, and I played this. So this is just coming straight out of the A major pentatonic scale down in the 2nd position. So this is the G shape. And I'm actually sliding into the top note of that. So you've got the major 7 up to the root. Coming down the scale. A little pre-bend on the 3rd string. Coming down the scale. Ending with this nice twangy bend. So bending at the 2nd fret on the A string. And then the root. And I also find myself throwing in some clicky things, some muted notes, which just adds to the overall country flavour. So it's quite a short solo, but there's lots of worthwhile stuff in there, I think. So some interesting concepts and techniques, lots of great licks, and you're very welcome to steal any of these licks. And I'm not claiming that any of these licks are particularly original. You hear every country player play these kind of licks, or very similar ones, and they're just licks that I've picked up over the years listening to records and studying country guitar players. So let me just finish by putting together the whole solo at a reasonably slow speed, just so you can hear how it all fits together. talk you through the gear that I'm using today, and it's actually super simple. I've just got a guitar going straight into an amp, and sometimes that's the best approach, I think. I mean, of course I love effects pedals, I've got tons of them and I'm using them most weeks on this channel, but really it's all about what sounds best and what works best in any given situation. And today I did get a few pedals out. I thought maybe a compressor, maybe a bit of light overdrive, but it didn't sound as good as just having the guitar going straight into the amp. So I think there's a lesson to be learned there. And this is of course how a lot of the early country and rock and roll guitar players would have got their sound, so pre-effects pedals, and still a lot of those sounds can't be beaten. And there are still some more modern players who I really admire who don't use effects pedals that much. I mean, Jeff Beck being a very famous example. He was a very minimal pedal user, as I understand it, and he managed to get a huge range of expression and all kinds of subtle tones and loads of variations, just essentially a guitar straight into an amp and then his fingers and manipulating the pickups and the tone and the volume knobs. So yeah, today it's just a Telecaster, a 52 reissue Telecaster, bridge pickup, volume and tone on full, going into a reissue Princeton, and the Princeton's set on about 3.5 to 4 with the treble and the bass somewhere in the middle, a little bit of spring reverb from the amp. Might add just a touch of reverb in the computer as well, just for a bit of a stereo sound, but other than that it's all guitar straight into the amp, nice and simple. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. There are tons of other country things available on my channel, so if you do a search you should be able to find some of those, and at some point I will try and put together a playlist of all the previous country videos that I've done. If you want tab for this one, that's going to be up on my Patreon page, so check that out if you're interested. Thanks for watching. See you next time.